We've got a good video for you. We've got a couple things that we're going to share with you today. But first, I'm Christopher Brannon with the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
And I'm George Williams. I'm the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System.
And since our upgrades, we're at 24.05 now.
Yep.
We've been scrambling to adjust a few things in our system since the upgrade. We've had our test servers for a while, but some of these things we don't catch until things are actually in production, because we catch the big things as much as we can, but there's so much that changes in an upgrade. Sometimes some of these things we have to adjust on the fly, and
sometimes you don't know that people are going to be annoyed by a new feature until they've actually used the new feature.
Yep. And so George is going to talk about some adjustments to the check-in screen. So
yes,
take it away.
So actually, this is one of those things that I didn't realize people were going to have a problem with until they actually started using the new version. So let me show you what this looks like. So the issue is, if you're going along and checking things in, well, this is something that needs to be returned someplace else. But this new label appears saying item was not checked in. And if you keep going, it's like any item that was not checked out. Looks like all these are at one library, and I'm logged in at a different one. So let's check in some things from another group. Oh, and I screwed that one up because I put it in the wrong box. Let's go there. Every time you check something in that was not checked out, you get this red warning here that says the item was not checked in. And I don't think people were expecting that. It's, technically speaking, the item was not checked in because it was not checked out, so it cannot be checked in. But the issue is does there need to be a red warning every time you scan something at check-in that was not checked in? If you're working in a library like some of mine, at the end of the day, they will go around and pick up everything that's been left on tables or sitting around, and they will check them all in, and they'll check in like 20 things in a row that aren't checked out. And every time they get this red warning. Or if they have a courier delivery that comes in, they keep getting this red label there, this red warning text every time saying item not checked in, item not checked in. I'll also tell you something that personally bothers me about it is that when you look at that, item not checked in and not checked out, they run together on the same.
They run together and basically say the same. Well, I mean, there's a lot there.
It's two sides of the same coin.
Yes, it's too much information and it's confusing our staff.
Yeah, let me flip over to I want to do this one, and that was Arkham Hospital. Let me flip over here. And I set up a whole bunch with some statuses to check in to just show what a batch of checking things in would look like in this situation. And so we're getting a lot of those item was not checked out. But some of these, there's a check-in message up here, local use recorded, not checked out, but each one of them says item was not checked in, item was not checked in. So
that yellow box too, that's supposed to point out something that you really need to pay attention to. And it's like, we don't always need that yellow box. And so we have some conditions on hiding that box.
So there's a lot of stuff going on there. That last item was not checked out. So it's saying local use recorded, not checked out, item shelving location updated. But this new thing is this item was not checked in. So what I wrote really quickly on the first day we were back with the new version is just some simple jQuery What I did is I said, I'm going to find this cell on this table. So this table is called, has an ID of checked in table, and that check-in cell here, there's a span in every one of these. So this TD has a class of CI-due date.
Mm-hmm.
And so all I did was I just added, the first thing I did is every time there's a span in there, I'm going to add a line break between them.
Great.
And that'll
And
break it
one of the
up
things
so
you can't
those,
see, one of the things you can't see right now, it was showing earlier, but not showing the last time that you showed it. If you go back to the check-in table, it doesn't always run together. It
it
just
depends
depends
on the size of the table.
exactly. Depending on what titles are in there and what's adjusted the table a little bit. But it was showing it earlier, but you can't
You
always see
don't
it.
see it every time. And I probably would have to add a status to one of these items to get it to do it, to do the thing it wasn't doing. So, but putting a line break in there every time, that's the first thing I wanted to do. And then I wanted to find every time, so this span, there's a span wrapped around this item was not checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And the class of that is problem. And so what I did is I said, every time there's a span where where the class is problem and it contains item was not checked in, I'm going to go to the parent, which is the table, the TD, the cell, and I'm going to add the class NSC NCO. And NSC is something I've added to all the classes I'm creating that stands for Next Search Catalog. So I know it's something that I created, not something that Koha is doing. And
Smart.
NCO just stood for not checked. Well, it probably should say NCI. Good, not checked in. Well, it's because the item was not checked out. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I named it that. So every time it finds that span that says item was not checked in, it's going to add a class to that table cell called not checked out. And so there are some cases where I kind of do want it to say the item was not checked in. So if it has a damaged, if one of the messages in here is damaged, so if I go to this barcode and change the status to damaged, and then uh, check that in again, you'll notice there's a damaged class here now.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that case, I kind of do want the warning messages, all of the warning messages to be there. And that class has DMG around it. So
Mm-hmm.
what I did in this jQuery is I said, if it has a damaged class, then remove that not checked out class. Or if it has a withdrawn class, remove that not checked out class. And so in those cases, it removes that NCO class from that table cell. But if it doesn't have one of those two situations, it's just going to hide everything that has that NCO class. And so in the situations where I want that class to appear, like if the item is damaged or withdrawn, then it will say item was not checked out. But if it doesn't have that situation, if it's not damaged, if it's not withdrawn, then that item was not checked in notice will still appear. So
Mm-hmm.
let me log back over. I've got a whole bunch of examples I prepared before the meeting. I just need to remember which library. I think it's that one. So let me check several of these in. So this one should be checked out. This one I think is missing. Oh, it's withdrawn. So the item was not checked in. That message is there. because the item was withdrawn. This one I think might be damaged or lost. So the not checked out. It doesn't have the item was not checked in message. This one is damaged, so it also says item was not checked in. This item I think will trigger a hold. Yep, confirm the hold. But it's going to say, it's not going to say item was not checked in. So I think what happens when staff see that message there that says item was not checked in, what they read it as is that this didn't process properly. That's
Yep.
what they read when they see that. And technically the item is not being checked in, but staff are seeing that and they're going, this item didn't process properly. And so one of the libraries in our area, they weren't sure what was going on. So everything that they checked in that they got that item was not checked in message, they set it aside for a half a day. They were setting all those aside so that they could go back and investigate why it was saying they were not checked in, and they couldn't find any problems with them. Um, so
Yep.
so that's what getting rid of that message when it's not, it doesn't need to be, there doesn't need to be a warning on every one of those. And so
Right.
this jQuery will just take that off.
We did something a little different. So let me show you what I did with my code. Like I said, I like some of the things that you did, and I may blend them together. I like some of your stuff, but basically, um, I didn't like the not checked out message after the this item was not checked in, so I just basically removed that. It just seemed like it was double speak for the same thing.
Right.
So this particular line here just removes that. I just blanket didn't do that, but I do like the fact that it shows. I like how you have it show the not checked in message sometimes, and not all the time. And I may steal that. Um, the labels is just this one line. Basically, it's looking for that span with the damage that you pointed out.
Right.
And it's funny because the lost statuses produce that alert box up at the top, but this damage does not. And so those just didn't stand out, and staff were missing some of these things. I do have some audio prompts, but
Oh,
not
okay.
all the staff keep their audio on their computer, unfortunately. So I wanted this to stand out a little bit more. And so it's adding this class, this label to wrap it in a label, and the warning makes it the yellow one. But
Right. And that's part of the one of the Bootstrap.
yes, and I also wrap it in a header 3
To make it bigger.
level, and that makes it a little bit bigger. Plus, it also automatically adds the line break to it, so it
Oh,
puts
okay.
it on a
Yeah.
separate line, which is really nice. It does two different things in one. So yeah. Otherwise, if I didn't have that header, it would be a little bit smaller, a little bit weaker font, and that just made it stand out a little bit better and put it on the next line, which is nice. So that's what I did there. Um, so a couple different ways that you can go about doing this. You might incorporate parts of either of these ideas. So I like what you've done, and I'm gonna go reevaluate some of the things that I've put in ours.
Yeah, and I
Um,
kind of like adding the label too for some of those because when you look at mine, let me put mine back up on the screen. Mine does have like the damage status is there, but it's really hard to distinguish from the rest of the text in there. And same with withdrawn. They both do have those classes attached to them, so it wouldn't be that easy to use CSS or jQuery to grab those and to put a label in them, like you said, or to even use just straight CSS to find a way to embiggen the message.
right.
So that I might adopt too, because that's not a bad idea either. So I like that.
So the other topic that we were going to cover today uh, was item statuses when you're looking at a record. And um, this is something that I believe we covered in a previous season. I can't remember which episode.
It was really early on.
Yeah, I'll point it out here in editing. But um, yeah, a while back, I had showed how to highlight the statuses and make them look better. I've done some
You're
revamping of
talking about
that.
on the item details page, right?
Correct. I've done some revamping of that so that those work with this new version. There were some issues that came about when they added pagination, and some of that started breaking because it's like the jQuery caught it on the first page, and then if you changed pages on the results of the number of items, then those changes would disappear. And so I had to revamp that a little bit, and um, I also had to address some things where Font Awesome, not everything that we were using for Font Awesome was working. They've made some adjustments on Font Awesomes, and where some of that stuff is behind paywalls, and so I had
Yeah.
to repoint to some new stuff. I know that Lisette's got some stuff in the works to move over to, I think, is it Bootstrap
Yeah, I'm going to look up the bug number so we can
icons?
put the bug number in there. But Lizette, I was talking with her about this at the Koha conference in Montreal. She wants to get rid of the Font Awesome icons because more and more, every version of Font Awesome, they put more and more of those behind the paywall. But Bootstrap icons are free
Yeah.
and open source. So let me see if I can find the bug number. Oh, it's right here. It's right
While
on
you're
top.
doing that, let me go ahead and show.
It's bug 38014.
All right. So this is what our statuses look like. Um, I have things that are in transit are going to be using the warning labels. Things that are uh, deactivated in the damage setting are going to be red. Um,
Looks
so
like damaged or lost.
yes. Loss, yes, loss is included in that. Things that are waiting are in blue. Things that are available are in green. So before I was doing a mixture of backgrounds and labels. Now it's all pure labels, and I've fixed some of my icons. So what's happening there? First of all, if you're going to use Font Awesome, uh, the the thing that you need to do if you're looking for a font, an icon in Font Awesome, when you're searching for it, like for example, if I was to do a clock, you have all these pro that you can't use unless you're paying for it. Um, you can whittle this down to the free. If you select the free category, you're not going to see all the pro stuff, which is nice. But if I wanted to use one of these clocks, I could. But when you click on one of these, you need to make sure that you're on the classic, um, and you're also on either, this will basically do the same thing as picking this other one, but you can do these two versions of the clock. Like this is the solid, this is the regular, but you cannot use the light or the thin. The light and the thin are not usable. I guess those are behind the paywall as well.
Yeah, when you look in the window to your left, you'll see that the next to where it says clock, you'll see the pro
Yeah,
label up there.
yeah. So uh, you can only pick the first couple iterations, the regular or the solid, but at least you have some variation that you can work with. So make sure you're using a classic, make sure you're using the solid or the regular. Um, and they've also changed the classes, and this is why some of the stuff was breaking, uh, because it used to be the class would be FA space FA dash clock. Now it's FA dash regular or solid space FA dash clock. So they've added to that first FA font awesome uh, class. So
Yeah.
those are some things that you'll have to adjust if you're using any of the font awesome. But the jQuery that I'm using, there's not a lot to it. I'm looking for that issues table, and in our case, and I know that you've addressed this with some of your iterations of this, but in our case, we're not dividing our holdings between our library and other branches, so it's all together. So I've only addressed what we deal with here, and that's just looking at the table as a whole, and I'm looking for the different um, uh, classes, the damage, the loss, um, both on the circulation page and the more member page, or on, well, let's see here. This is the wrong one. This is patron item status. Oh my gosh.
You got too much stuff, man.
I do. This was, let me find it. Okay.
It's going to be the one that, the thing that I see that's unique in your code, because I'm
Here it
looking
is.
at it. It's got the draw DT is in the commands. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Because that's the thing about this jQuery, since it's in the data table and the data table has pagination,
Yep.
each time the page changes, it redraws the table. And so that's why you need to have that, put all of this in the on draw DT function.
Yes. And that's key in making sure that those statuses work on all the pages, not just the first page when the page loads. So this was the one that worked for me. There
And that's
might,
what the part there at the beginning where you have holdings table, that selector, that's what has to change in order to make this work. If you have the holdings and then other library holdings, if you have the holdings tab split into what's at your library and what's at other libraries, that part needs to change a little bit.
yeah,
And once Christopher posts this to the wiki, I will add a supplement to it that will go through how to do it if you're using that system preference that splits the holdings into two tables.
right. So, I'm adding a class to available because for some reason they decided that available didn't need a class where everything else did. So I added that for consistency. Um, I This line has to do with recently returned. We shortened it just slightly to recent return because uh, more often than not, recently returned was wrapping on two lines. I could probably improve that by putting it in a header as well, so it doesn't wrap on two lines. It's a little bit more consistent because I think I had an example of that here. So yeah, if I put a header around that, it would look more like this
Yeah.
consistently. But I shortened it so that it wouldn't wrap. Um, so, in fact, side note, I have a bug out there. I thought, wouldn't it be nice if instead of recent returned, it said returned and the date? That would be an improvement for us because it's like, how long ago was it returned? Because if it's been for us, if it's been a certain amount of time, yeah, it might have been recently returned, but it might already be back on the shelf or it could be back in the room depending on that date. So, and how fast that label goes away. So, it'd be nice to have that option, but that's a completely different story. But so that's what this little section here does.
Right.
Um, so we are looking for that available and adding that success label that makes it green. And then we are looking for the lost, the damage, the not for loan, the withdrawn. For each of those, it's putting that in a danger label, which is red. It's
Right.
also
And then you're
adding
adding the triangle.
the regular. Here's the FA regular, FA triangle exclamation. And by the way, I don't know if we've mentioned this before in previous videos, but if you are using Font Awesome, this is a good thing to add just for screen readers, so the screen readers are ignoring these things.
Oh, okay.
I never understood why that needed to be there until the Koha US conference.
Yes, that talk from I can't think of her name,
The
from
accessibility
Equinox. Yeah.
presentation. But now I know, and so it's like I'm going to go back and clean up some of my code to make sure that that is in there. So if you're using icons, this is a good idea, especially if it has anything to do with menus for sure. But anything that a screen reader is going to read off, you don't want these read off. And then these are wrapped in H3 to make sure that they are isolated from other entries in that same cell.
Right.
So I also isolate things that are in transit. I add those as a warning label. So the orange or yellow, it adds a little truck in front of it. So it looks like that. So that's what that line is doing. I'm looking for things that are actually waiting at a location, and I use an info label, which makes that turn blue, and that will add a little location dot, like on a map or something. So that's what that is right there.
Oh, the pin.
What's that?
It's the pin icon.
Um, I choose not to say the pin because there's actually a different icon that looks like
Oh, yeah.
a pinhead. Yeah. Um, so there's that, and then if one of the entries is showing the information who it's held for, that's going to do a little circle info icon in front of it. It doesn't wrap it in a label, but it just adds this little information icon in front of it.
Right.
So it's part of this technically, but it is a separate entry, and that makes that little piece stand out separate from what's above it. So those are my statuses. I hope to fix that by wrapping that in an H3, and yeah. So you've done something similar,
I'm
but
working on something similar using straight CSS mostly.
yes,
And I can share that, but I'm not really going to talk about how I did it because it's not really finished.
still in progress.
Yeah, it's still in progress. Once it's finished, I'll find a way to post it somewhere. But I decided to go the complete CSS route. And I
And yeah,
do
I
have,
like CSS over jQuery whenever possible because you don't have to look for conditions for page loading or table
right.
loading for that stuff to apply, which is really nice, especially when you run into the pagination issue. So, but
I do
because we're
have
adding the
some,
font awesome, that's why I had to stay in jQuery.
yeah, and I kind of decided since the font awesome has been inconsistent and since it might be going away altogether, I decided just to drop it because I used to use font awesome too for these. But I do have some jQuery though, because this is how I have my recently returned set up.
Are you doing something to keep that from wrapping?
Uh,
It
I
seems
think
like it should wrap that as big as it is.
I have it, the label that I put it inside of, I believe, is set to display inline block.
Hmm,
Um, so I've got the color there, I've got the font size there. Display inline block, I think is what I use to do that.
interesting. Okay.
So that's how I got them all that way. And I wanted each type of, this is a lost status, this is a damage status, this is a withdrawn status, this is a damage status. I wanted each different type of status to have a different color. But I don't want to talk too much about it because it's still in progress. So, but it
Hmm.
does, and I didn't do anything to make available appear in a badge because I figure if there's all this other stuff on there that these actually stand out more by not being inside of a label.
All right.
So, but I don't want to really publish what I've got written up, what I've got done for that yet because I'm still not 100% sure it's done. So,
Okay.
but the advantage of doing that all with CSS is that I don't have to do the jQuery and say every time the table redraws, because the CSS is going to change the page whether the table is redrawn or not. The
Right.
CSS will be applied whether no matter when the table's drawn. So
CSS is more efficient and more consistent, but unfortunately, you can't apply conditions or add elements, which,
exactly.
oh,
You can do some adding of content, but it's always tricky. And the font awesome stuff is really tricky to add with it's complicated. And if it's going to break all the time, then what's the point? So
yeah.
if it's going
I'm,
to be
I,
going away soon, there's even less of a point. So
I think, I did some initial testing with the Bootstrap icons, and I wasn't getting it to work. It was basically wrapping uh, what I was selecting in. It looked like kind of like a label almost, but it was wrapping it in a background box, and it wasn't applying an icon. And I think probably the issue with that right now is we're not on the right version of Bootstrap.
it could be, and I think the plan is to just have there is a way to import just the Bootstrap icons. And I think that that's what Lizette's plan is to just have Koha automatically import, to have the Bootstrap icon set just be a part of Koha loaded like all the other scripts that are loaded. So, because I
So
think that's what's happening now is Bootstrap, the font awesome icons are being added through a CSS file that's just imported. Uh, that's just part of Koha. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm kind of sad because I did look at some of the Bootstrap icons, and they're a little bit more basic. They're kind of like what Font Awesome looked like starting out in the beginning. Font Awesome looks a little bit more polished, in my opinion. Um, and they have a little bit more variety. But you know, for
that's
something
the
that's
thing.
out there that's consistent and always available, I
Yeah,
definitely would say Bootstrap is the way to go down the
I
line.
think the fact that Bootstrap is open source and it plans on remaining open source, I think I like that for sure. One of the things you can do with the Bootstrap icons, like if you wanted to add this up arrow right square, um, this is actually the code. You can plug this into your HTML just as a straight SVG command. It's a
Yeah,
lot bigger, but then you don't even need to import the icon set into Koha. You can
right.
just copy this in and put that in to the to the HTML, and it's there
Yeah,
because it's actually drawing it as it happens. So And you don't, the thing I think I like the best about it is you don't see that little word pro anywhere on the screen.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So you don't have to sift through
yeah.
things. It is what it is.
If you look up an icon and you find it and then you don't have the opportunity of seeing that word pro and going, oh damn, I wanted to use that.
The SVG is nice because you're not. Yeah, I like it because you're not relying, like you said, on outside connections in order for that to
Yeah.
work. But
But it
um,
takes up it's a long piece of code to put into something just to get a little icon.
right, if you're going to use something over and over, though, I'm wondering if you could um, create like a global variable at the beginning of your jQuery and then just insert that in its
Maybe, I don't know.
place.
I think that's kind of what, yeah.
So
I think that's kind of what the icon set does is it's uh, creating creating all of those SVG files and then giving you the code is giving you a quick way to insert them through
yeah.
that whatever those codes are, the I class and then the indicator for that specific icon. So
Well, George, thank you for sharing your code and the modifications that you made to the check-in screen. That's going to be helpful. And again, I'm gonna borrow some of that. So I
cool.
appreciate it. And I hope everyone enjoyed what we shared today. I hope that your upgrades are going smoothly. And again, we'd love to hear about you, how your upgrades are going, what things you're running into, or what kind of adjustments or fixes that you've made. So feel free to comment on our video or reach out to us um, through Mattermost if you uh, want to participate more in the community. We encourage people to hang out at Mattermost, and that's where I ask my questions a lot of times when I get stuck. So it
Yeah.
really helps. So
I would say too, if you're out there and you've just upgraded to 24.05 and there's something that isn't working right for you that used to work differently, ask us.
yep,
Just
especially
tell
if it was
us.
something that we did.
Yeah, especially, yeah.
All right.
We'll
Well,
see
we'll
you
see
next time.
everybody again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Bye.